Take number 378. Oh my goodness. Good morning, listeners. Oh, um, just some comic. Anyhow, you did not come here for that. You came here for the Vixen Diaries, and we will continue on in that. But before we get started, be sure to hit the like button on this video, the notification bell, so that you know when I upload new videos. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It does let YouTube know that I'm here, and we want them to know that I am here. But without further ado, as I said, we will continue on in the Vixen Diaries with chapter 17, Love After Death. On November the 10th, 2006, the world awoke to the somber news that R&B legend Gerald Levert had passed away. He had died from an apparent heart attack caused by an inadvertent combination of over-the-counter and prescription drugs. I had known Gerald over the past 4 years and had starred in one of his videos for the single Funny. I was stunned to hear of his passing at just 40 years old, but several people close to me who knew him better than I did, were even more devastated, especially New Edition member Johnny Gill. Johnny called me as soon as he heard the news. I cringed while listening to him on the other end of my telephone that morning as he cried out for the man he called his brother. Cringing may have not been the compassionate response, but then I don't do death well. I have never been good at dealing with it, and in the past I have found it difficult to support those who are touched by its sombering grip. Nevertheless, I try my best to be there for my friend as he depended on me for support. And helping him grieve led me to take a look at myself as well. Over the next few days, Gerald's passing lent itself to my contemplation of death, both literal and figurative. Unable to mourn Gerald's death, I was forced to confront my willingness to mourn those who are still living but have simply left my life. Bobby and I have been apart for a little more than a month, and there were nights when I missed him to the point of tears. There are still some of those nights. As time goes on, those moments happen less and less often. Still, they exist. There are also moments now and then when I stop and think of Ray J. We are just friends now, but I miss the way we used to be and feel sorry for the fact that we can never be that way again. After a few times of trying to reconnect, it became painfully obvious to me that there is no way we can ever be as close as we once were. Then there is Papa, the now infamous secret lover I spoke of in Confessions, with whom I carried on a 5-year affair despite the fact that he was married for the last 4. I eventually left Papa to begin a life with Bill. I miss Papa for so many different reasons and sometimes question whether letting him go was the right thing. There are nights when I wonder where he is and whether he thinks of me still. I miss all the days we spent talking about our lives together and apart. We talked a lot about my future, and he assured me that I would be successful one day. It was hard for me to walk away from him, but I did so knowing that I could not be with Bill the way I wanted to and still have a relationship with Papa at the same time. I made this decision just 2 days after meeting Bill, knowing somehow that he would be the love of my life. In retrospect, I'm glad I ended my love affair with Papa, but I wish I could have preserved our friendship. Whether as friends or as lovers, I miss having all these men in my life. In my own way, I mourn the fact that these relationships are dead, never to be resurrected, and the fact that it was difficult for me to face. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back that up. And that is a truth that was difficult for me to face. But life has a way of giving you no choice, and for that I am grateful. As I tried my best to help Johnny through one of the toughest times of his life, I was reminded of my grandfather's passing 20 years earlier. I was given the news of his death while in school one day. They called me to the office and handed me the phone. When my mother told me he was dead, I was overcome with sadness. It was like watching a home movie. Instantly, frames of the days spent with my grandfather flashed through my head. I knew there would be no more days in Brooklyn watching reruns of All in the Family while eating Spam sandwiches. I knew I'd never hold his hand again as we walked to his office. I wondered who would sit at his desk now that he was gone. Nevertheless, I was unable to shed a tear for fear of being seen. Even at 7 years old, I wanted to be strong and keep up a brave front. I thought that crying would make me look weak. In the days that followed, I remember family members scurrying about preparing for the funeral service. Every so often, bouts of crying would break out. I cried too, but I didn't let anyone see me. I locked myself in the bathroom, ran the faucet in the sink, and cried for my grandfather. I cried into a towel to muffle the sounds. I cried so hard my face hurt. I cried until there was no tears left. The day of the funeral, I still did not want anyone to see me cry. I thought my grandfather would be proud of me if I could hold it together and be brave in front of everyone. As the rest of the family and friends who attended the service cried, throwing handfuls of soil and sprinkling holy water atop the casket, I stiffened my upper lip and straightened my spine. I bit the inside of my cheeks and held my breath off and on while reciting to myself, "Do not cry, do not cry," and I didn't. When the funeral was over, we all headed out to the cemetery and toward the exit. I was glad that the ordeal was over. My head ached from the pressure of holding back my tears. I was just breathing a sigh of relief that the worst was over when my mother started in on me. She pulled me to the side and scolded me for not crying. I stood there in horror as she ripped into me verbally. Every inch of me wanted to scream. I cried already. I cried for 30 minutes in the bathroom, but all I could do was stand there as she clutched my scrawny arms, told me to my scrawny arms. Truth be told, I wanted to cry right then and there, but I held back out of sheer stubbornness. I didn't want her or the rest of the family and friends to think she was getting the best of me. If I hadn't cried at the sight of my dead grandfather lying in his casket, I most certainly would not give her his tears. I thought I was doing the right thing by holding it all in, thought my grandfather would be proud. That was over 20 years ago, and I have since come to the understanding that crying is not a sign of weakness, but actually proof of normality. Still, when it comes to death, I have a hard time either understanding or giving in to the mourning process. I cannot grieve for the dead, but as soon as a relationship ends, I have no problem falling onto the floor and laminating that my life is over. What the fuck is that about? Does love mean more to me than life itself? Do I cherish lovers more than I do the lives of friends? As I listened to Johnny sob and sniffle over the phone, I began to grieve for him, even though he was very much still here. I began to think, what if this is the last time I'll hear his voice? What if he never wakes up tomorrow? Johnny and I first saw each other at the home of Eddie Murphy during an Easter celebration. We never spoke that day and didn't see each other again until the night at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles when Bobby and I resumed our friendship. Johnny and I exchanged numbers that night. After that, we spoke on the telephone almost every day. It got to the point where I began to think he was something of a pest. Johnny became like an annoying older brother who always thought he had all the answers to all the big questions in my life. He offered long, boring speeches to prove his point. At first I didn't think I like him at all. Let me back that up. At first I didn't think I like him all that much. Oh Lord. He was nice enough, but not necessarily my type of friend. Still, we kept in touch, and over time, he began to grow on me. Even while I was with Bobby, Johnny and I would spend platonic nights together and talk for hours on the phone. It took Gerald's passing for me to fully appreciate him, for our friendship to deepen. Johnny had been there for me every night I cried, every time Bobby didn't come home or did something inappropriate. He listened to my heartache, and now I listen to his. With each phone call, he became more of a real person to me, vulnerable and afraid. I began to feel things for him I have never imagined I would, and those feelings felt a lot like love. Not love in the romantic sense, but more of a love and respect for the caring person I now saw him to be. A person very different from the long-winded, finger-pointing older brother I pegged him for earlier in our relationship. Of course, he wasn't the one who changed. I was. He was there the entire time, and I did little more than ignore him. I'm not sure if this discovery foreshadowed a romantic relationship in the future, but for now, I am sure that Johnny is the kind of person I am ready for, a kinder, gentler man who is there when I need him and knows he can rely on me for support under the most difficult circumstances. Nevertheless, my love for Bill makes it difficult to truly let anyone else in. In the meantime, it's good to have a friend like Johnny, and I am positive that he would agree that it was a delight to have a friend like Gerald, who helped me to realize that even though death may be difficult for me to deal with, it is one thing that is proof positive of just how special life is and how important it is to treat the special people in it well. I no longer want to let the good guys pass me by, nor do I want any man to hold the weight of my world on his shoulders. Death is final, breakups are not. And I know that in the future I would rather cry for the finality of death rather than for the fleeting discomfort of a love lost. And I have Gerald and Johnny to thank for that, for teaching me that. Thank you all for listening. As I told you, that was a short chapter, so that's why I uploaded it right away, as quickly as I can anyway. But I thank you all for being patient with me, for coming to the channel and listening. Be sure to hit the like button on this video if you have listened this far, the notification bell so that you know when I upload new videos, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And do comment. If you have any comments or thoughts to share, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much.